First, probably just eating enough.
Eating enough?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good answer. Yeah.
Usually if we hit a plateau in our performance, many times the solution isn't like more training, it's rest. So if anybody is stuck with a performance plateau, start strength training. Like
Good answer.
yeah. Yeah, all 100%. Everything has a purpose. Yeah.
Everything is purpose.
Yeah.
오늘은 미국에서 생리학 기반 코칭과 스포츠 뉴트리션을 전문으로 하시고 이번에 고려대학교 초청으로 한국을 방문하신 라이언 콜러 코치님을 모시고 이야기를 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 저 역시 지난 3개월 동안 저희 라이언 코치님과 함께 훈련하면서 조금 다른 방식의 접근을 경험할 수 있었는데요. 아주 좋은 경험을 했죠. 단순히 FTP 숫자를 올리는 방법보다도 왜 그런 훈련을 하는지 그리고 아마추어 라이더들이 실제 삶 속에서 어떻게 더 건강하고 오래 강해질 수 있는지에 대해서 이야기를 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 먼저 한국의 아마추어 사이클리스트를 위해서 간단한 자기소개 부탁드릴게요.
My name is Ryan. I have Rocky Mountain Devo is my business
Yeah.
in Colorado. Yeah. Yeah, that's my business in Colorado. So I do a lot of coaching and physiological testing. So VO2 max, lactate threshold, all that stuff.
사이클리스트에게 생리학 기반 테스트가 왜 중요한가요?
The approach of just riding more and not using any data, for a lot of cyclists, it'll take them to a certain point and then they'll reach a plateau and nothing else will change.
Right.
For some of them that's fine because that's the level they want to
Exactly.
be at, which is fine. Other cyclists, when they get to a certain level and reach a plateau, then the physiology helps us look at what's happening under the hood for them, look at their individual response. And then if they have those questions or there's gaps where they can't progress, then the physiology is really what makes those next steps accessible to them. Yeah. So whether it's VO2 max or lactate testing, just something to look inside and see metabolically what's happening just answers a lot of those questions. Yeah.
I think that's a really good answer.
Yeah. Good.
예전에는 저는 TSS랑 훈련량만 봤었거든요. 근데 요즘은 내 몸에 어떤 에너지 시스템이 강하고 약한지 알게 되는 게 진짜 중요한 것 같더라고요. 존투 훈련의 진짜 목적은 뭘까요?
That's a good question. Yeah. Well, there's a lot that happens in zone 2.
Exactly.
And I think it also goes back to the physiology testing where if we know what your zone 2 is, it now opens up a range for you to do good training. But we know like riders like Pogača, if they're doing very long days in the saddle, even the upper end of his zone 2 is too much. So he needs to be able to scale that based on how much training he's doing that day, how much training he's doing around it. So the zone 2, when we then talk about the amateur or the recreational cyclist, zone 2 is great to know because without that knowledge, we tend to ride too hard. And then it just compresses everything we do into this medium hard. So it allows those riders to get a better understanding of like, if I want to perform longer and then I need to train longer, I can find the right intensity. And then also if we need to adapt our physiology in other ways, like different metabolic systems, then we can now train in the right spaces. One of the other things that with zone 2 is once we find that, I find a lot of the amateur cyclists, even competitive amateur cyclists that are pretty fit, they find their zone 2 and then they want to train right at the edge of it all the time. But we need to make sure that they have that entire range to use, just like Pogača does. Like we want to do the same thing and say we don't always want to train right at the edge of it. We want to use the entire range depending on the context of training.
전체적인 퍼포먼스 발전 안에서 FTP는 어떻게 보시나요?
So, I mean, FTP, if we're talking about just FTP as a performance measure and not tying it to metabolism very much because they're separate, then it tells us what we could do for a relatively long period of time. So, overall, it's sort of like zone 2 where it gives us that sustainable threshold area. I find one of the mistakes that we could also find is like people find it and they think I need to train at that all the time, but FTP also exists in a range range where understanding where that number is, then if we're doing higher intensity intervals, we might be just on the upper end of that. Longer intervals, we might be on the lower end of that. But there's around that one number, there's a range of intensities where a little bit below that we're working one part of the energy system, a little bit above it, it's now involving another energy system. So I think understanding like what that FTP means and that it's just because you have one number, it doesn't mean that you have to be right there. And if you're above it or below it, then you're doing too much or too little. It's all in the context of like, what am I trying to accomplish and like what energy system do I want to train at that point. Yeah, so I think that just understanding again the like what the number means and doesn't mean and then just applying it.
I think I understand that.
Yeah.
10년 전에 제가 혼자 훈련하던 시절에는 스윗스팟이 유행했어요. 시간 없을 때는 이거 하나만 하자 이런 식으로요. 스윗스팟 훈련에 대해서 어떻게 생각하세요?
Sweet spot is good. It's real. I like it a lot. It's very valuable. I think that one is a little bit. It can be really risky because this when that was really popular, we saw this in Colorado too. Like everybody was going sweet spot, and the percentage it was 88 to 92% of threshold. So the problem was people said I was going to do sweet spot. Where did they ride? 92% of threshold all the time. They never rode on the lower end, and then they did sweet spot Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Friday, and Saturday. So they were spending 3-4 sessions a week at like 92% of threshold, and they burned themselves out.
Exactly. I'm really surprised they can handle 80% of the sweet spot, you know?
Yeah. But that's what, they would just keep hammering themselves day after day. And if you're not fueling a lot, that's where the problem with amateurs not fueling enough comes in, because, nutrition, to train your nutrition and focus, it's not that much fun. Because you're like, well, I don't want to keep eating.
Exactly.
But then if you're going to go do the work, then like that's the fun part. I sweat, I'm having fun, I'm working hard. So they go do all the fun work, but they don't do the nutrition. And then what happens is expenditure goes up, intake goes down, and they burn out. So sweet spot is good when you can be very strict with how you're using it.
Exactly. 만약에 내 천장을 깨트리고 싶고 내 숫자를 한 단계 더 발전시키고 싶다면 어떻게 하는 게 최선의 방법일까요?
Man, yeah.
Sorry about the stupid question.
Good question. I know it's hard. I think it goes back to like the testing piece, understanding like where the limitations are. But if we sort of speak generically about it, like whatever that ceiling is, I'll usually look at what we're not doing outside of it to get an idea. So WKO5, right? The profile with where it shows strengths and limiters.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's a good way to see it, because you could see maybe their relative weakness is like the sprint, 5, 10, 20 second power, and they might have a curve that goes like this, and we see 30, 60, 90 minutes is their strong suit. And if maybe that person is racing like gravel,
That's really nice approach.
Yeah. So then we see like, hey, you're doing a lot of extended endurance work. That's already a strength. But if you're not improving, what's holding you back? It might be your VO2 max. It might be your anaerobic ability. So we can look at like what they're not doing as maybe a starting point to do that. Yeah.
That's really nice answer. 아마추어 사이클리스트가 가장 먼저 고쳐야 할 영양 습관은 뭘까요?
First, probably just eating enough.
Eating enough?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good answer.
On the bike and off the bike, usually the amateur cyclists are under fueling, and with the focus on like zone 2 and fat max, then they might restrict carbohydrates, do fasted training, things like that push them into under fueling. So depending on their level of competition or like just their goals and what they want to achieve, usually getting them to actually fuel enough is the first step. And not that they have to be up at like 100 to 120 grams of carbohydrate an hour, but like getting them to consistently take like 40 to 60 might be a challenge, and that's where for the amateur cyclist, as they go longer, they usually start off pretty well, and then they might ride for 2 hours and forget to eat. So there's that of just finding a consistent intake that supports your activity. I think that's the biggest hurdle for them now, is just get enough. Well, and again, this goes back to the testing, is like find out what your expenditure is. That'll tell you how much you need, and then just find a sustainable amount that you can take in consistently.
그 얘기가 나온 김에 아직도 많은 아마추어 사이클리스트들이 탄수화물을 줄이는 게 살을 빼고 빨라질 수 있는 최선의 방법이라고 생각을 하고 있어요. 저탄수화물 어떻게 생각하세요?
If you're looking to improve like overall fat combustion, training is first, and then carbohydrate restriction is like a very small piece that you could add on. But until you have the foundational piece of being able to train at the right intensity, I don't even worry about it. And outside of that, carbohydrates are really the performance fuel. So I don't think there's any need to reduce carbohydrates. So that's why, yeah, mostly I focus on like, if like the way I do it is with most riders, like let's get to a carbohydrate amount that you can tolerate for the duration that you need. And then let's say it's 60 grams an hour on average. If you can take that in, then I'll say, let's do 70, let's do 80. And then find your upper limit where you're taking it and you're just like, I can't take any more, I'm done, my stomach or whatever. Yeah. And then we know, now we have a range, 60 to 80, and we know, okay, that's your range. If you're going harder, go to 70, but don't go above 80 because you can't tolerate it yet. So we have to like train the gut, find an upper limit, and then consistently fuel. And if we need more, train the gut, give it time to adapt, and then that's your new level. Yeah.
You have to train the gut, find the limit.
Yes, exactly.
I think it's going to be really nice answer to the amateur cyclist.
Oh, good, good.
그리고 많은 아마추어 사이클리스트들이 하루만 쉬어도 불안을 많이 느끼더라고요. 코치님도 그런 이야기 많이 들으셨죠? 코치님은 회복을 어떻게 정의하세요?
There's two pieces. So I look at the physical recovery and then just the mental recovery. Yeah, the physical side of it is like if we don't take recovery, we won't adapt. So and I look at recovery two ways there. It's like full off days and then recovery rides. So if you train sufficiently hard, an off day is not bad. It's a good thing. When we take that recovery time, that's when the body actually adapts and gets stronger. The body, when we keep hitting it with training, we just tear the body down, your performance declines until we bring recovery in, it'll never come back up. So the recovery is crucial for the adaptation. On the physical side, you know, well, with your training, right, it was like Monday, off days, right? So you have that consistent off day. That's a great approach because you know I have at least one day off every week, which is great. In masters athletes, as they get older, they might need like a Monday and a Friday off. But learning to take recovery days as seriously as training days is crucial because you know it's the recovery days that allow you to actually get stronger. Yeah, and the mental side too is just talking about this over at the office was with one of the riders training for his first Ironman, and he trained for 2 years, did the Ironman, and then he didn't ride his bike for 3 months because he was burned out. The mental side is crucial too. So I tend to have athletes train like 8 to 12 weeks. We'll do 2, maybe 3 months at most of like focused training, and then we take 1 week of a transition period where we just they dial training, but we actually don't train. If they ride their bike, we do like a coffee shop ride, easy just ride. Social. Remember why you're doing this, why you like the bike.
Even the professional doing that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. After the competition.
Well, they rest more than we do, and if you look at a training calendar for a professional, you'd be surprised at the amount of off days they have.
Really?
I mean, depending on the part of the season that they're in, but yeah, they take a lot of rest, and and we don't as amateurs. We just keep going and going. Usually, if we hit a plateau in our performance, many times the solution isn't like more training; it's rest.
I think because of that, we have limited time. Working, having their life.
And that's where like the physiological testing comes in, because then if you have a plan, I want to train this energy system, so I do it here, here, and here, and if you don't, and then those other days when you're not training it, why ride? If you if there's no purpose or if you don't know why you're doing it, take the day off. If everything else is quality around that, take the day off.
That's good answer.
That was one of the first things I learned this was over 20 years ago when I was starting coaching. We used to have to share our training plans with all the other coaches, and the higher level coaches would ask us questions, and everything was, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Why that work? And if we couldn't explain it, then they were like, nope, get it out. Don't give it to them. If you don't know why you're doing this one session, get rid of it. Yeah, everything has a purpose. Yeah.
Thank you for the answer.
Yeah.
웨이트가 싫으면 자전거 위에서 빅기어 저케이던스 훈련으로 대신해도 되나요?
The forces, even with big gear, high torque, low cadence training, the forces you put out on the bike are relatively small compared to what you'll do weightlifting. So they both have a good application. Like weightlifting is great, especially if someone isn't doing it right now. Like 2 days a week of strength training with weights will absolutely help their performance. So if anybody is stuck with a performance plateau, start strength training. Like
Good answer.
yeah, all 100%.
All right.
If you have a good base of strength training, even then layering on some of that torque work on the bike is a good way to then like apply those gains to the bike.
무릎이나 고관절에 통증이 생기면 훈련을 멈추고 나을 때까지 기다려야 할까요?
Yeah, pain, especially you can look at it as is it pain that resolves when you're off the bike? That's one thing. If it's pain that stays with you off the bike, that's another. In some cases, if there's pain that goes away immediately when you're off the bike, maybe it's bike fit, maybe biomechanics. So getting that looked at might be one thing to think about. If it's pain that stays with you, then it might be more global. So in those cases, like rest is number one. The next step would be get it looked at. Whether you have a physical therapist or physiotherapist here?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so like that's a great option. Like get an evaluation to see like is there weakness, right? That will tell you a lot. Cyclists are notorious for overusing their quads and not using their glutes very much.
Yes.
Most endurance athletes aren't good using their glutes.
Yes.
So rest, get it assessed, and then like gradually bring yourself back. And a lot of times, it could be like a weakness, for example. So again, you go back to, do I need to strength train? And do I need to change how I ride the bike? Do I need to change how frequently I ride the bike? Maybe I'm just overdoing it. So but getting that assessment I think is key, so you can understand like where is the deficit coming from. Yeah, with those athletes, especially on the cardiovascular disease, just knowing their limitations. Is a big thing. So I mean, exercise is really medicine. So
Yes, right.
yeah, so I mean,
That's why they're still doing it.
Yeah, it's great. So I think it's just knowing, what their limitations are. But even, like high intensity training is good. And there's a lot of good research on even patients with cardiovascular disease and heart attack prevention, like high intensity done in even small amounts is really beneficial. So I think for those masters athletes dealing with that, one of the biggest things is making sure they don't overdo it. Like amateurs, if you're healthy and you're younger, junior racers, 20s, 30-year-olds, they can get away with a lot if they just keep pushing themselves and into the ground. When you're at the master's age, you can't do that as much.
Yes,
So you have to be very aware of it.
그럼 달리기는 어떻게 생각하세요? 자전거도 전신 운동이 될 수 있긴 하지만 저는 자전거만 탔더니 발목이 많이 약해졌더라고요. 골밀도도 낮고요. 뼈에 실리는 충격이 없으니까요. 달리기가 사이클리스트에게 도움이 될까요?
Yeah, and that's another thing with masters athletes as well is if they get into that narrow mode of like I only ride a bike and I ride the bike all the time, dedicating some of that time to like loading the bones differently, whether it's running or hiking or again strength training where you can jump and load you need that load for bone health. And actually some of the professional cyclists now, they're also doing in the off season actually boxing for bone health. Because they're on the bike, and like we know running will strengthen your spine, hip, all your lower legs and help bone density there, but they're always riding here, so they actually box and the upper body bone density.
That's nice.
So like this is why like multiple activities should almost always be part of the entire program. Like cross training is huge.
Cross training.
And it's like another, depending on how much time a cyclist has, it's like how much can I do? And
when they have time for doing something, they just grab their bike, go for a ride.
Yep,
I
exactly.
do.
Right.
I do that too.
Yeah, and I think you just need to think like, what's your long-term goal? For some people, it's like they're cyclists and they identify as a cyclist, and maybe their long-term goal is like, I want to age well and be healthy. And in that case, we may say, okay, you don't need to ride 6 days a week. You need to ride 3 days a week. Have a day where you can strength train, a day where you can go on a hike or a run, and maybe a day where like you do a cross training and boxing workout, whatever, you know. But for somebody who's like 8 months out of the year, I don't have any goals, but then like there's a summer Grand Fondo I want to do, and I want to do really well at it, then yeah, maybe that applies for half of the year, and then that other half, then cycling goes from 3 days to 5 days. We maintain 1 or 2 strength sessions, and they shift their focus a little bit, but then after that event, they go back to a different approach. So I think it's having that flexibility to like, yeah, adjust and just see what makes the most sense for you. It's like a holistic approach as much as possible.
Yes.
It's like the elite cyclists don't always have that luxury, but amateurs, like we do. It's just whether or not we make the decision to incorporate those other things that'll give us a good, well-rounded approach.
일주일에 양질의 세션 3번밖에 못 한다면 가장 효과적인 그리고 현실적인 훈련은 뭘까요?
Yeah, only 3 sessions per week. Yeah. So I look at least one of those sessions being like zone 2, a longer.
Probably Saturday.
Yeah. So your weekend long ride, that'll drive your adaptations over the longer term on the volume side. And then the other 2 sessions, because we have enough recovery built in, hopefully with the off days, then I would do some, a higher intensity day. So zone 4, zone 5.
Zone 4 and
something
zone 5.
like high intensity type intervals. The other day, something like tempo. So like tempo or sub-threshold. So that way you have a good range. You've got your long ride, you've got a stimulus on those other 2 days that's high enough to accommodate not riding on the other days.
한강 바로 옆에 자전거 길이 되게 잘 돼 있어요. 그래서 라이딩 나가기도 되게 쉽고요. 그룹라이드 문화도 아주 강하고요. 그래서 다들 그룹라이드만 나가면 훨씬 세게 타고 내요. Same there too.
Yeah.
How do you think cyclists should use group rides effectively within?
If there's different levels of group rides and you know what they are, I think just choosing the right level. This is like people that ride on Zwift as well. It's like if you get on Zwift and you just start riding, what's your first instinct? The first person that passes you, you ride harder to catch. And it's the same thing on group rides. So if you have different levels, then making sure you don't always just creep into the fast group. But if there's only one ride, one group that's going out, then just making sure, like paying attention to like leg sensations, breathing, making sure that you're not just sitting too close to the front and working too hard, and thinking about, again, like, why am I doing this group ride? What's the purpose of this training? Yeah, in some cases, you just want to go throttle yourself and have fun. Perfect. Group rides are excellent for that. If you wanted to use it as a training session, it might mean that, hey, I'm going to sit toward the back and be really cautious with my effort and just keep sitting on wheels the whole time. And if we're doing a pace line and I get up to the front, I just pull off immediately and drift back, and I just don't use any energy that way. So I think the purpose of it and being very like strict about sticking with that. Yeah.
It depends on their, what their goals for that.
Yeah. Because it could be like a sweet spot session, essentially, where if you do a lot of group riding and you're always just working so hard, then eventually you just get burned out.
콜로라도의 아마추어 사이클리스트들은 어때요?
They're kind of a different breed. They're when I moved to Colorado at first, I moved from Pennsylvania on the East Coast, and this was the eye-opening part. Is I was competitive over there, and you feel good about that when you have success. And I moved to Colorado, and I was basically like a whole level lower automatically, because the competition from amateurs over there is insanely high. I mean, we have 75, 80-year-old grandmothers that are hiking the Colorado Trail. Do you do categories here, like category 1 through 3? Okay, so we have amateur cyclists that will race in the Cat 1-2 Open, and they'll finish with the pros. but they have a regular day job and a family. So the level of competition is super high for amateurs, and it's kind of intimidating for people just coming into that because there's like it feels like there's a big jump from like recreational to the competitive group because the competitive amateur group is just so fit.
So what kind of competition there in Colorado? So criterium or Gran Fondo or
yeah, we have everything. We have Colorado criteriums on the road. Criteriums are probably we have a lot of those. Not so much on the road races. Permitting and things are pretty difficult for like bigger road races.
Yes.
So like criteriums make sense because they're small.
How about the criterium races? What is that like, the criterium races?
They vary quite a bit. We have so there's one that's not far from my house where it's like this, literally it's called the oval crit, and it's on this big oval circuit.
Oh, okay.
So we have some like that where it's just really fast, fun, non-technical, and then we have other ones where there's 11 corners and they're super technical, very sketchy. So it's the whole range, and all the courses are they're all built. They have like unique characteristics for each location, so you could find any kind of criterium you want there.
크리테리움 영상을 본 적이 있는데요. 낙차가 엄청 많더라고요.
And that's again depending on the course. Usually on those the like oval type courses where it's a wide open road. There's hardly any crashes, but when we get on the more technical ones, you just see that stuff happen. Usually it's the Cat 5, Cat 4 amateur groups because they're still learning. Sometimes they call it the Crash 5s. Oh. But but they're still learning and the variability of fitness is much wider in those amateur groups. Just because you might have somebody who's like really fit and they're just starting, so they have no road skills, so they may ride up to the front and sit there, whereas another person may not have the fitness to do that, so they're in the pack and they don't have the skills and they might chop somebody in the corner and there's a crash, whereas category 3, 2, and 1 is where you go into that like semi-pro and then professional, and they're usually fine.
낙차를 피할 수 있는 좋은 팁이 있을까요?
I mean, one, if you have a track here, like to ride on the velodrome,
there's a track.
Track training is fantastic.
Is it?
Yeah, I did some track training and racing when I was in my 20s. Went through a program, and you get so comfortable riding without brakes and on the fixed gear bike that when I went into a group after that, you feel so comfortable because you learn how to control your space, and you learn how to do it by always pedaling, which means your speed doesn't change much, or it changes very slowly, and you don't use your brakes. You never panic brake. Learning to ride on the track is really helpful. And then if you don't have that opportunity, just like group rides are good, where you can get into a group and just sort of feel the space you have around you and get comfortable making contact with people, and visually not staring at the person in front of you, like keeping your eyes up to look ahead and look 2 or 3 people ahead to see if slowing is happening up there. So then that way you start adjusting because the rider's coming back to you. So like practice, just time in groups is helpful.
That's really nice tip.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. But it's scary too, training like that, because like when I was on the track doing that training, during one of our training races, like there was one of the newer riders swung up track. I was already on the high side, and it was like 4, 5, 6 people crashed right there. They went up track, and I was just in the wrong spot, so I crashed into them and injured a lot of road rash. But it was one of those things like that part of it is crashing, so you almost have to accept that I'm willing to crash. If you are, you can progress. If you're not willing to have that risk of crashing, don't risk it, because it will happen. So like you only push yourself to that threshold that you're willing to go to. Yeah.
Thank God you didn't broke any bones.
No, luckily. No, just road rash.
Yeah. Lots of scars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
We all do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
마지막으로 코치님의 코칭 철학이 궁금해요.
Yeah, in terms of coaching philosophy. For athletes, I like to meet them where they're at. So everybody starts in a different position. And for the beginner cyclist, I like to make sure they have the tools and understanding that they need at that level, and then focus on educating them a lot. For the more advanced rider, sort of checking on that knowledge level, and then helping them focus more on like refining what they do. Ultimately, with any athlete, when I coach an athlete, ultimately, if they come to me eventually and say, "Hey, I think I've learned enough to go coach myself," then I did my job. Yeah, if they are ready, if they do it on their own, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah, and help them find, just like the enjoyment of cycling. That's the big thing. Like as they approach their goals, help them to their goals, but also help them find enjoyment, because cycling is a lifelong sport.
And can you wait for a second?
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Oh wow.
When was the last time you received the flowers?
I think never years ago. I don't
Really?
Yeah.
So this is for you.
Oh.
And actually tomorrow is Teacher's Day here in Korea.
Okay.
You're my teacher.
Okay. Yeah.
This is here in Korea we gave carnations. These are
okay.
carnations. So on Teacher's Day as a symbol of gratitude and respect.
Oh. Yeah. 감사합니다.
Thank you so
There
much
go.
for everything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Great. Well, I hope it was this was informative and helpful. Think back to my philosophy. Just figure out what you like about cycling. Let that be your driver and your motivator. And if you're on the bike, I think just find the things that make you smile when you're doing it. You can work easy.
That's nice.
You can work hard on the bike, and if you're having fun with it, then you'll keep progressing. Yeah.